Welcome back to some professional StarCraft 2 with probably the most creative Terran player out there. In the blue, we have uThermal. Facing off against the powerhouse Protoss in red, it's Geralt. In a best-of-5 Terran versus Protoss showdown as part of Wardi's 2025 End-of-the-Year Championship. And before we get started, it'd be incredible if you could smash that like button and maybe even subscribe. Oh, we got the algorithm. And Jimmy, what are we at? Jimmy. 1,764 likes on this video, on this cast, and I'll cast another one. And I'll probably do it anyways, because I don't know what else I'd do with my life. But thank you for watching. Hopefully, you've had a good day so far. And hopefully it's about to get just a little bit better. As uThermal starting out with all of his buildings in his own base. And you may have already noticed he is not going by his first given name, but instead something a bit more full of foreshadowing. Rat gameplay. So I'll do him the honor / disservice of calling him by what he's usually known as. But that certainly tells a story, if not a necessarily savory one. As the Reaper makes its way past and the Stalker doing what it does best, but still very poorly. Unable to stop the Reaper from escaping. And we'll get in. We'll see absolutely everything despite the Reaper wall. The Twilight Council, tap a few probes, and get out just fine. This is a hard Reaper wall, which means the Reaper literally cannot jump up at all. Not even to get a look around, but, you know, I think the knowledge is already there. And Geralt, the probe in a suspicious position after grabbing some of those minerals. Stalker and Adept on their way across. The command center was not scouted, but the reactor factory was. The probe is actually spotted. The Reaper hunts it down. The Hellions are hiding from exactly this. And in fact, they were spotted. But more Hellions. Who's flanking who? The Hellions boxing in the Adept. The Reaper joins up with him. He's back. And the Stalker recalled at the last moment. A smart reaction from Geralt so he doesn't lose everything on the field. A uThermal with a remarkable, if you would, yet standard start, able to outflank the Adept on the field, get all the information. Now it's a cloaked Banshee on the way. There is a robotics facility in production. By the time the Banshees get across the map, it's very likely there will be at least one observer, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be in position to deal with the Banshees themselves. Something with a factory this early on, and an obvious inclination towards spending your gas on something else means it's likely shenanigans are afoot or in flight. But it's almost impossible for Geralt to know exactly what. Now, the shield battery, observer, and blink combination is not perfect, but it's your best chance to cover all your bases literally and figuratively. The blink stalker is able to counteract the maneuverability of all these more infuriating Terran units. I was going to use a less harsh word, but I think it's accurate. And the Observer, of course, for detection against Banshees and Widowmines. But the Banshee, shield battery, very well placed, so all the probes can get a sip. And another shield battery in the main. Geralt anticipating this. Cloak Banshee, one of the most common follow-ups after the Hellions. And the Hellions still trying to find an angle, but Geralt's acutely aware. The Blink Stalkers will knock down one. They'll finally take out the Reaper. He's just giving it up here. And the Banshee chased to the ends of the earth and then knocked into the water. So far, Geralt has deflected and destroyed absolutely everything. But he hasn't been able to put any pressure on the other side of the map. Usually the Blink Stalkers, ideally, are able to threaten the main base, maybe potentially even delay some push out, but Geralt has been happy enough, or at least content with sitting back and building up that third. uThermal with a third base, now in production at the natural. Almost nothing has been spotted by Geralt so far. What? 2 more Banshees? He doubles and triples down, despite the, mediocrity of the first Banshee. 2 Banshees are an order of magnitude more dangerous. They do enough damage that the shield battery cannot heal the probes or reshield them before they are destroyed. So, 2 Banshees is the most dangerous number. Past that, it's just gratuitous, all right? It's overinvestment. This message brought to you by Big Stim. Banshees Maybe found an opportunity the third pre-cloak, but I think he caught a glimpse of it. As clearly... there was an observer that may have caught in a glimpse of the Banshees flying out the first time. And now cutting through the probes. Some stalkers in the main. There is an observer. He'll get a few more kills. 4 kills so far, but still not exactly the harvest I'm sure he was looking for. But 1 Banshee gliding on through. The drive-by done. Will have to be enough for... There's another You can't just keep building Banshees. More like Banshees. If at first you don't succeed, pull the boys. Is a philosophy that many Terran players have. But uThermal instead is working on his third base and has expanded to the northern side, a little bit further away. The Banshee's in a precarious position, and another 2 going to be taken down. Leaving his Banshees out parked in a less than safe location, and maybe regretting that decision now. 4 Banshees dead for 5 probes and 1 Adept, and the Adept is credited to the Hellion, so... To say it's not great is certainly an understatement, and almost completely inaccurate. That was a complete waste. The only real value was in delaying any sort of counterattack out of Geralt, and there's still the question of whether he's less equipped to deal with it because he invested so much in the Banshees, even if they did cause a delay. Geralt now has a 4th Nexus in the bottom left corner, nearly complete. The production tab is full of Terran upgrades, but they're not completed yet either. Another Marauder gets picked off, but 62 SCVs. +1/+1, Stim, Combat Shield, Armory, Widow Mines, Marines, Marauders, Medivacs, the M&M. The classic Terran gameplay, and also kind of necessary if you'd like to do some rat gameplay. The mass Medivac and multi-prong drops can be one of the most effective ways to pick apart a Protoss, especially if they're not quite maxed out yet. And Geralt is actually moving forward. He's chosen the armor upgrade, as opposed... Anti-armor missile, Dorito Dust still gets it on the Zealots. That's going to help out a lot, but the Raven gets knocked out of the sky. Meanwhile, Storm is complete as the Templar glide forward, but those Zealots a bit more malleable with the anti-armor missile. Meanwhile, though, the charge lops into the natural, the bunker not being utilized, but the Warp Prism unchecked as well. Geralt striking back, but only doing super... Oh! A masterful bait, the double mine on the corner. Curse your sudden but inevitable betrayal, Warp Prism. The Widow Mines knocking the Prism out of the sky, and with it, the best chance for Geralt to try to divide and conquer. uThermal now has a 4th base as well. He still has the supply lead. Geralt, despite being able to knock down the Banshees and keep uThermal from really doing any economic damage, does not have the army to reliably move in. But uThermal shows no interest. He does not have a Ghost Academy, and he's not building Liberators. Just more racks on the way. He's already got 7, going on 8. It's not about how many men you lose, it's about how many you have to replace them. And this war of attrition has begun in full swing. Another Warp Prism into the main. The Widow Mines were not repositioned. Meanwhile, the Storm zoning out. Planetary Fortress about to complete. At the front line, zoning Storms again, but the Planetary being repaired by half a dozen SCVs. Double Medivac drop into the natural. 4 Templar throwing out their water balloons. And nobody noticing this side of the map. 1, 2, 3. Oh, the last Templar gets a Storm, but it's a disaster for Geralt. Meanwhile, the Zealots in the main, there's almost no anti-air to deal with the Warp Prism. The Immortals still working on the Planetary Fortress. The Medivacs have picked up and gotten out. The Marines are tearing through everything at the natural. The Warpins are not enough. And overall, uThermal has survived the onslaught, and he's gutting the tech tree. The robotics facility is taken down. The Templar Archives depowered. The Warp Prism wants in on the action, though it may regret that decision. The Templar being targeted. The Warp Prism, totally not a select out army. The Prism is chased. The Immortal came all the way back. There and back again, and now they're into the unit's lost tab. +1 ground weapons is on the way. An absolute bloodbath. A massacre, butchery across the field. And so far, no closer to finding a conclusion, but another pylon is depowered, but a second one backing it up. Meanwhile, the Marines and Marauders continue to stream across the map. The second robotics facility is knocked down, and the tech tree has been fully chopped down to a stump at this point. He still has the Robo Bay, but with no Robos and no splash damage besides the occasional storm, the medevacs are still rolling through. Geralt unable to stem the tide of momentum that the Marines and Marauders are rolling across the map with. The probes in on the action. The medevacs are nearly out of energy. The charge lots. uThermal actually has an upgrade advantage. +2 ground weapons and armor against +2 armor and +1 weapons, which means that with the medevacs in tow or out ahead, he's able to take some very cost-effective fights. But both sides can... in 2 minutes. That's quite a tab. We've filled it. I don't know. There might be more units, but we've broken the UI. uThermal destroys 9,700 minerals, 2,800 gas to 6,911. It is a disaster for both sides. But Geralt maintained a very key point. uThermal lost 41 SCVs. Geralt 27 probes, and those were scattered throughout. That means he still has a reasonable economy, and in fact, throughout much of that, because of the warp prisms, he maintained a higher income. And it's truly a war of attrition now. Despite the damage uThermal was able to do, Geralt was able to recover more quickly. It's the economy, stupid. I quote, not a admonishment. Both are wrong. Chastisement. Fancy words. Like and subscribe. What are words? Meanwhile, the Cyber Core going to be targeted. Another piece of the tech tree will have to be rebuilt. The Cyber Core already done, so there's a pylon to be able to... It's a crazy angle, 2 levels down. They just curve the bullets. And those grenade launchers. 173 to 150 supply. A roller coaster so far. And throughout all this, uThermal, with a religious, somewhat ironically, dedication to Marines, Marauders, Mines, and Medevacs. No Vikings, no Liberators, no Ghosts. Reliant entirely on the momentum. It is a strict adherence to a certain principle. A be unstoppable composition in the right hands. But, at some point, the Protoss are able to put together enough splash damage that it could all get washed away by a couple storms or incinerated by some thermal lances. Meanwhile, though, 4 medevacs loaded up, a drop of doom headed towards the main, the scan. There's a Templar with 1 storm banked up. The gateways? Well, this actually might be a prison of its own design here. The Templar out in front. Energy recharge and it just dies! Oh no! That Templar was the most important unit potentially on the entire field. Being able to delay or destroy this in a timely fashion is very important to prevent something like this from happening. The Marines and Marauders swinging into the base in the center. The drop almost uncontested as the Cyber Core was destroyed for quite a while, and the Stalker count is uncomfortably low. 8 more probes dead. The medevacs are flying around like they own the place, and so far the Stalker is only barely evicting them. Chaos. The map, it's relatively coherent. Though 15 minutes in, you definitely expect more bases to be taken. The Colossus went down the Reaper Cliff. Oh no. Oh no! Stop right there, criminal scum. The most dead potential Marauders, literally surrounded by Blink Stalkers. And Geralt correctly anticipating an attack to the bottom left corner. There is a recall available, but it might be too little, and it might be too late. Already the Nexus just obliterated by the Marines and Marauders. But uThermal cannot recall out. The Zoning Storm, a light drizzle across the Marines and Marauders. The Zealots are chasing it down, charging through. But behind the Mineral Knot he picks up, but they'll expect some of us in the wreckage from us. And a lot of Marines and Marauders are left behind, but another couple medevacs get into the main. More drops than a Skrillex album, as always. And right now, DJ uThermal just can't stop dropping the base. He denies +3 ground weapons. Almost no anti-air is brought back. Tries to target. The medevac doubles back and is able to dodge for now. A couple more Stalkers knocked out of the sky into the same river that the Banshees were taken down what seems like ages ago. More Marines and Marauders into the center base. I keep wanting to say it's the natural, but their base is all over the place. Another double drop. Right now, uThermal has 10 barracks, and he's pumping, oh, the main base. And even some of the barracks apparently unrallied, which might be a mistake. Expanding, another base down. 69 SCVs for uThermal. A nice enough economy to perpetuate this madness. As he drags the Protoss army around the map. Another army kiting the Colossi down the center. The medevac knocked down, but the Marines and Marauders at the natural gonna snipe off a few more probes. The worker count is nearly even. The supply is close enough, but Geralt has taken the lead again. He's had the upgrade advantage for a little while, but uThermal is finally making his way with this rat gameplay to +3/+3. And a fusion core is in production. Why do I feel? What is existence? Like and subscribe for existential dread. But why do I feel like this fusion core is exclusively for Caduceus Reactor? No Vikings, no Ghosts, no Liberator so far. And it seems like he has no intent on any of them. That maybe, despite the circumstances of being one of the biggest tournaments at the end of the year, he's sticking to his principles, like a zealot if you would, and trying to take down plenty of zealots in the process, funneling them through. There is no extended thermal lance. Disappointing to everyone involved when they realize more zealots taken down by the planetary in the top right, carving through the center, Marines and Marauders trying to outflank. There's actually no resistance at the natural, but who's flanking who? SCV's pulled off the line. uThermal setting up a near 360-degree surround, and the Colossi, he knew it was coming, but it was too little. The storms at 360 degrees as well, but uThermal wades through them, and the entire army is obliterated. 144 to 117. Geralt felt a disturbance in the force, I'm sure. There should have been much more at the door, but right behind it. What a disaster. What a few more warpins. Did he not notice the lack of extended thermal lance? A disruptor, scouting disruptor, just thrown out there. Something we haven't seen yet. That lack of thermal lance may be what allows uThermal to maintain this composition. Having the extra range to keep the Marines and Marauders at bay. It's a huge difference. Especially when we're talking 3-4 Colossi. If the Marauders can close the distance and knock them down before being incinerated, you know, that's kind of a big deal. There's the Caduceus Reactor in production. The double medevac energy regen. Potentially the only fusion core upgrade relevant to uThermal's apparent unit composition restrictions. A mess out there. And we're no closer to a conclusion, as both players still have a strong economy. They still have enough units to be very dangerous to one another. And neither has a bank. So each of these fights could either be game-ending or just lead to another lull in the action. It really depends on how terribly it goes for either player. Fights on both sides. A Colossus, some Templar, Zealots as well, but knocking down the medevacs. That Templar tries to bait out a storm. There is no drilling claws on the Widow Mines as well, despite the addition, which means that a single shot and they'll be revealed, at least until they cool down again and, I don't know, cover themselves with some sand or something. I don't know how that works. Another army, but this time Geralt is ready for the flank. The Nexus may die before he can execute it. The Colossi on either side, the splits, the stims, and look at that spread. I can't believe it's not butter. An incredible spread from uThermal to minimize the Colossus damage. But more units are piling in from both sides, spread across multiple fronts, but he stutter steps forward into the storms. And he knocks out the Colossi. Disruptor shot clips a couple. But Geralt loses the key components of his army. He's left with only the expensive Templar Colossus, a few Stalkers, and a single Disruptor. The economy is near even throughout, but uThermal has actually ground out a significant supply lead at this point. He's lost 8,000 less resources, 5 orbital commands. There's still the 10 barracks pumping units, a Factorio base at the main. At this point, it's clear that we will be avoiding Ghost Vikings. Those silly units that don't... Well, I was about to say, well, rat gameplay, and I thought of Liberators and Ghosts, and they might embody it more. But it's more, it's about an idea. It's about sending a message and a medevac. Maybe got lost in translation. The Spylon warned Geralt this attack was coming, but again, the bait and switch. The most obvious ploy. But again, the Marines and Marauders hit the left side. Another Nexus will be hit. Geralt will collapse on the army to the right. The orbital command might need to be redirected, but it's a little bit too late for that. And +3 weapons again. Only 10 seconds from retirement, that forge. But it may never complete it. The orbital command is taken down. Yet another Nexus. Nexus number 4. And the Robo Bay without extended thermal lance will be taken down once and for all. uThermal now with 2,300 minerals in the bank, but very little gas. He only has, well, he has 6 refineries. I imagine, yes, 4 of them are mined out. 1 out of 3 of the others, which is probably a mistake, but another medevac caught on the way out. A single Marauder threatens to take out the Forge that is almost done with +3, but depowered. And another Nexus. Slide to the right. And the Marines and Marauders yet again as Geralt is slower and slower on the response each time. The momentum that has been ground out. And the drop at the back. It's all coming apart. The Protoss army is so strong, but it's lumbering along, unable to catch up with the Marines and Marauders. At least not enough to pin them down and knock them out. uThermal is never offering a target that Geralt could actually hit. There's never been enough of his army committed to one place where it could all be killed before a round of production from 10 barracks refills it. Again, kiting back constantly. 178 Zealots, 8 Colossi, 5 Nexi. A scattering of buildings for both sides. Finally, these Marines and Marauders will be taken down. Technically, the +3 Forge, with +1 shields queued up as well, is still depowered in the corner. The medevacs are intercepted. Yep, that's an army. 3 more command centers on the way. The lead is nearly insurmountable, but the both greatest strength and weakness, as uThermal keeps sending out the map hack level scans, is this army can be destroyed. The Marines and Marauders, the most malleable. Flesh is weak and malleable, especially in the face of dozens of psionic storms. There are 9 Templar with multiple storms, as well as Colossi.
Unacceptable, command. We are at maximum supply.
Well, that tells the story. So we go to the uThermal can for a moment. What an exhausting game. But the momentum is clearly in favor of the Terrans. And this is how we know. Not just as an idea. Finally, +3 will be denied. It was in purgatory for a while. He has enough money to build a dozen Ghost Academies. Almost. If he wouldn't stop building orbital commands. He chooses not to. At this point, you can fill in every unit, every upgrade. uThermal has half the map. And he has plenty of money to start the next game. Yet here we are. 34 Marauders, 41 Marines, and 8 medevacs. A couple Widow Mines still left behind. In the corner for Warp Prisms. How many Warp Prisms? 3. All taken out by now. There's still 2 Robos. As Geralt's best chance is acknowledging the challenge/game that uThermal is playing. And winning one fight so incredibly decisively that uThermal can never recover. But the rat gameplay has been too strong, and I seriously doubt he'll find that fight. But slowly, he's eking up in supply. 130 to 130 army supply. They're losing a chunk here. The Marines and Marauders continually cutting back. Feedback on the medevacs. Archon's out in front, quite strong, though still lacking in range, just like those Colossi. That's a huge... Back when he had the economy to compete, extended thermal lance would have been a big deal, and now the lack of it, more so. Redonkulous storm, doing terrible, terrible damage, but still not enough to quite deal with this army. uThermal drops 70 supply in seconds, but another group of Marines and Marauders find an exposed Nexus. And yet again, Nexus number 6 goes down. But the supplies are still dangerously close to even. Multiple planetary fortresses coming online. Still stimming almost to death. The building armor upgrade isn't complete, and this is it. This is the moment. He's got one shot. He's got one opportunity. He needs to find a way to capture it. The problem is that uThermal can give up the entire right side of the map in favor of hitting from the left. And every single time when Geralt has gone right, uThermal has hit him 3 times to the left and vice versa. And while this army might not be able to be beaten, at least not in any reasonable fashion, it doesn't need to. Because in order to win a game of StarCraft 2, you must simply just destroy your opponent's buildings. That's what rat gameplay entails. And that's what uThermal is surprisingly and dangerously close to being able to do. There is only one more Nexus. Well, there's no more Nexi near minerals. There are 2 more at the main and the natural. The feedbacks, but you know. The storms throughout. Psionic energy. A trail of destruction. Through all the fire and fury. Geralt has simply been unable. The whiplash of the Terran composition. Casual Marauders might even be able to kill an Archon. Not if the Stalkers have anything to say, but you know, he goes over to the left. The map is dark and full of Terrans. Another Colossus. The Geralt cam is going from bad to worse. Another Nexus could be targeted. The probes. He's back down to barely more than he started with. To be fair, Geralt until very recently had a hope of somehow taking that fight. But unfortunately, I think that hope is now gone. Again, the medevacs fly away. And again, the rat gameplay is too much. After nearly 30 minutes, 229 Marines, 148 Marauders, 208 Zealots, nearly over 110,000 resources lost, and 1 victory for the Dutch Terran. What a meat grinder of a game. uThermal's principles holding, and enough to drag him over the finish line. Geralt unable to put together the defense he needed at any point. You could feel the frustration, but every time it was just a couple steps too short, and he was running out of real estate very quickly. Game 2 is on Mothership. Another large map, even larger. All right, I mean, they named it after your mother, so they shipped it, if you would. Another map where medevacs, Marines, and Marauders could be quite strong. Well, speed. And there were a couple moments. I fully believe that uThermal, I'm sure many of you know even more than me, but I fully believe uThermal would have committed to the Marines and Marauders and medevacs, even if it meant he lost the game. Like, there were a few moments, a few fights where there was a clear time to transition into either Ghosts, Vikings, or Liberators, all of which are great complements to the army, but he didn't. He committed to the Marine Marauder strategy, and once the Warp Prisms were shut down, that is the play. All right? Aside from the death, the way you pin down the Terran army is by using the Warp Prisms to anchor them back in the base, to force them to keep some of their army at home so they can't have two armies at yours. But he was not able to do that. And then uThermal, Veni, Vidi, Vici. Well, that has to be a demoralizing start. Geralt, it's not like Geralt. Now, uThermal knows Geralt. Geralt is not the fastest Protoss player. He's incredibly dangerous if you allow him to execute on his plan. I mean, that's most players, but more than most. It's just uThermal willing to throw away 30 supply to destroy a Nexus. And in scrambling to kind of process that situation, Geralt misses his opportunity to counterattack. It is that reckless disregard for the lives of his units that, yeah, you can't half-ass it. You gotta full-ass it. Otherwise, you end up rounding down. Enough philosophy. Game 2. A tech lab on the way with 2 Reapers in production in a command center on the low ground. The first Reaper scouted forward. He's just letting Geralt seal this. Will he show him? Okay. No, this is not good. Well, it depends on who you're rooting for. But the Stalker just delays the command center. A curious shot. The probe gets an SCV kill. Beautiful. And he's intentionally hiding the Reaper. So he let him see the base, but he's still hiding what this actually is. The Stalker backs off. The command center is so late. But the Reapers... This isn't anything too cheeky here out of uThermal. Getting 3 Reapers is still something. Can you jump up there if there's a pylon? Okay, I'm done. You can jump up the entire side. Gets 1 probe. 2 Stalkers should be enough, especially with the Adept to help out. But the Reapers are ransacking the mineral line. Gonna rack up 4 kills. And gets a scout on the Twilight Council, so goes a long way to evening up the worker count. Hyperflight Banshees. So, we saw a few people messing around with this for some reason. Hyperflight Banshees were buffed in the patch. They, the upgrade time was reduced by about 20 seconds. It's still quite a long upgrade, and it has niche use. Usually Hyperflight Banshees are for going mass Banshee, or at least have been in the past. So you can jump on smaller armies and use the... Now, that had to be intentional. Like, he had to have let that Adept in intentionally. Because you see an upgrading tech lab, it's Cloak, alright? 9 times out of 10, it's Cloak. And the other time, they're faking it. Link is done, and he just catches the Cyclone out there. So he's really selling the Cloak Banshees. And Hyperflight actually costs more than Cloak, so you don't fake it with Hyperflight. The Robo is starting. I'm very interested to see where this goes. The, Hallucinated Phoenix provides some vision, but there's already a siege tank. He still goes for it. Second Banshee on the way. Think he'll... hello? Oh, he's just letting him have the... uThermal values the element of surprise. Intentionally not moving the Banshee where Geralt can spot it. Which, we'll see if it works out for him. The Hyper Shees. They're so fast. They're actually very hard to control because their acceleration is still similar. But when it goes right, it goes so right. Misses a shot on the Nexus, but already 4 kills. Goes into the main. There are Blink Stalkers. Just disrespect him, gets the shots. 1 Banshee will escape. Well, 1 Stalker warping in, but he gets out. After 5 kills, the Stalker chases after, but it's not enough. The Banshees slip away. After 5 kills, they get away with murder. And yet again, like, these seemingly inefficient Banshee plays, but they must be respected. You have to deal with the Banshees. They do so much so fast if you don't. So... the Stalker's looking to intercept, maybe on the way back. A Raven out now. Almost. Raven just gets Edgar Allan Poe'd right out of the gate. That, a bit of an unceremonious end. The Banshees are repaired and sent out for another round, though. Yeah. There's no easy way to deal with them. Camping Stalkers in your mineral line. Each Stalker is as much supply as the Banshees, so... and cannons can easily be avoided. On top of the fact that Geralt is just now building a forge, so... a complicated relationship with the forges in the previous game. As in, he was barely able to finish upgrades when he wanted to. Alright, here we go. uThermal with the Banshees. Up against the force field air blocker on the edge. And, no, is he trying to send the medevacs out, or are they just trying to fly to the next map? Yikes. I seriously think he, actually got caught at the awkward angle here. Double Widow Mine, but the Warp Prism just gets right on by, and the Widow Mines were not in place to deal with it. Meanwhile, though, the Banshee's on the third, a single Stalker to deal with it, the double medevac drop. Here we go again! The Banshee's in the main, getting chased down, but the double medevac drop is almost entirely obliterated. 1 medevac taken down. Banshees and medevacs make it all the way into the main. An unhappy reunion. And the rack gameplay this time, I think, finding mixed results. The shield battery is energy recharged. 1 Stalker's taken out. Scouting Immortal is turned around. Great job. Yep, got the scout. Mission accomplished. But the speed Banshees are knocked down. The medevacs as well. Because they flew right past the prism, so that was a bit of a giveaway. And again, well, it's not the time you would expect Ghosts or Vikings. But uThermal's certainly not jumping on that opportunity. Speaking of jumping, the Stalkers blink forward. But somehow, the Spylon will spot this. Very importantly, the Nexus might be taken down. There's a Super Pylon right next to it to warp in quickly. The Widow Mines, just as dangerous to the Terrans as the Protoss. Well, almost. A Templar. Don't know what he expected to accomplish with that, but the Marines and Marauders and another Nexus. And no cancel. But the Stalkers. The air blockers actually pin in the medevacs. Right up against the edge where they can be sniped off. The Protoss army is hunting. And they will find it. Storm? Uh-oh. Let me out! No! Koprulu drifting. Oh, it's a disaster. Oh, no. A painful death. But uThermal undeterred will take advantage of the army being out of position. Still, some Marines got out somehow. We'll kill a few probes. Widow Mines just scattered throughout. Another medevac is knocked down. He's lost 5 of them so far, out of a grand total of 10. Not exactly a high percentage play here. Really trying to keep that momentum that he was able to gain in the previous game, but so far, Geralt is more than ready. He's adapted, and he knows exactly what uThermal wants, and he's not going to let him have it easily. Two has started. uThermal will have the upgrade advantage as time goes on, assuming Geralt... The Medivacs, he's just not able to pin him down. He's never... It's almost random amounts. It's clearly calculated, but it's almost random amounts of Marines and Marauders and Medivacs being sent out, so that way you can never quite be prepared. If it's 3 Medivacs, then a Templar and a few charge lots won't do it. But if it's 1, it'd be more than enough. Now kiting into the empty base on this 3-player map. Thermal picks up. The Templar and Stalker's chasing, but... Oh my. Is he gonna get away with it? Unless he gets stuck up against the force field again, but drifting his way by. The supplies getting dangerously close to even, but a couple. Missile turrets may be able to zone out. The Warp Prism shut down before it can even start. Maybe an attempt at the 3rd. Nexus. Oh no, a double drop into the 4th base. And the Marines and Marauders at the natural as well. A storm on the back line washes over. What was that? Another Warp Prism? Oh my. The Widowmines in front. Pylon taken out. Could probably target a bunch of the probes here. But still trading quite well. 11 probes dead. Cleans up 2 Medivacs, but there's another one. That Templar without enough energy. Energy recharges on cooldown. I'm sure uThermal noticed. He could... No! The cape torn asunder by high-velocity anger. And the Marines and Marauders will jam themselves into the back line. And the Zealots starting to regret that the most advanced Protoss warrior is a melee swordsman. The Marines and Marauders are left behind, but yet another army is sent out. 24 probes dead, and the turntables have turned yet again, as uThermal refuses to stop dropping the base. 2-2 upgrades finishing, and with it, an even greater advantage for the Terran army, which has somehow turned around the supply gap completely. Geralt is unable to stop uThermal from continuing this sort of merry-go-round of aggression. He can't seem to do a strong enough counterattack to drag the army back, nor actually pin down the army itself. uThermal just dancing away at the last moment, playing hard to get. And nothing is much harder to get than the Marine Marauder Medivac army. Not even an attempt at Colossi this game, just entirely reliant on the Templar. I think you can really feel Geralt's frustration here. Constantly trying, every time he takes a step out, he has to take 3 or 4 steps back. And it's still too late somehow. The Field Templar, but just a few Marines. He tries to throw out a storm, but doesn't even turn in time. 5 Medivacs. 3 more than natural, here we go again! The triple threat! 3 separate drops simultaneously. One is thrown back, another is deflected, but the natural is finding a lot of success. And he only needs to do damage in one place in order for this to be worth it the majority of the time. Another Immortal's taken out, a 2 upgrade advantage for the Terrans, and working on 4. +2 ground weapons is about to complete for Geralt, but more probes go down. Feedbacks helps knock out the Medivacs. But the drop of the natural found a lot of damage, and Geralt's economy is struggling in a situation where he needs to be thriving. More losses, but even more gains. uThermal loses a huge chunk of his army, but further hamstrings the Protoss economy as he almost maxes out his upgrades and his supply. It is exhausting to watch. So many, there are 9 Medivacs. No, that number keeps fluctuating rapidly. The Warp Prism caught by the mine, though not quite. Could easily be targeted, just clearly select all army from Geralt as he tries to swing around, but a sledgehammer to bat down a fly That's what it feels like right now. Or a mosquito, even. Drawing blood absolutely everywhere, whatever the Protoss have, the plant-based equivalent. And this is even without the upgrade advantage. uThermal is never sending enough of an army to outright end the game, but again and again, and more command centers back here. He won't stop. He can't stop. Autumn colors on those Marines and Marauders. Widowmine scampering up. Still the same upgrades as last game. No drilling claws, no Vikings, no Liberators, no Ghosts. How many? He's got 11 barracks scattered throughout. Slowed down a bit. The income slides back towards Geralt because he's spread out through more bases. Does he have rapid fire force field? That was pretty sick. You shall not pass. For about 12 seconds. Caduceus reactor now on the way. As the tempo slows down noticeably. Widowmine still taking a chunk. Storm's trying to do their part. But uThermal has progressed to the later game economy. We'll snipe off a Templar. Oh no. A Warp Prism gets it. But starting to lose the fights across the board. 2 upgrade advantage for the Terran army. Warp Prism will be cleaned up. It's too late. And Geralt is unable. GGW. GG. I think WP is where he was going with it, but can draw your assumptions. Another war of intense attrition. This time, a little closer, but also further somehow. But uThermal will not be stopped. And he's put on match points so quickly. And by so quickly, I mean it's been like 50 minutes. It wasn't that quick. It's just the games have been exhausting. As quick as you could possibly take. Which is 2 games. Though, those 2 games are... well. To the Celestial Enclave. Geralt has to turn it around now or never. I believe this is an elimination match as well. The loser is out of the last championship of the year. So Geralt, if you got something, now's the time. uThermal sends out the first SCV. Disgusting. To proxy in the corner. We're on Celestial Enclave, but there's a worker-only path at the back. Which means it's incredibly unlikely that Geralt will scout here, unless he's explicitly looking for this. But there's a non-zero chance he is, so... yeah. He's looking. And he's finding. Fool me once, and I won't get fooled again. Uh-oh. If he actually kills the SCV, this is a total disaster. Oh, what a save!
What a save!
Illegal! Oh my, uThermal, but, I mean, he's trying to etch. That's what a play. He's still gonna, no. Why would you cancel it? Another SCV's on the way, but this is already a disaster. Oh my. So, I almost guarantee you these two play on the ladder, possibly on a daily basis. Both being near the very top of the European ladder. And... Wait, were they on the same... Oh! uThermal's 2v2 circuit, which Geralt is an active participant in. Wait, no, now's not the time! Hey! You know what? Well, the probe can follow him home because the worker-only path does not preclude probes, despite the Terran prejudices. The probe gets in, but the Reaper's still gonna hit a little before the first Stalker is out. But maybe not enough. If he loses the first Reaper, that's an absolute disaster. Doesn't quite nail the shot. The barracks is on the way out. And where did the probe go? Did he? Citizens arrest on the probe? The barracks is floating across the map. Well, I've got to reset. All right, thrown off by the build and the series so far. A very different tone to game number 3, somewhat literally, but uThermal this time definitely on the back foot as Geralt is comfortably able to get his second base. He has a worker lead and there is no threat of Banshees. In fact, there's not even a starport. He does have a command center on the high ground, but he'd rather not land at the back base, which only has 5 mineral patches and a single gas. The downsides of the pocket base. Blink is already a third of the way done. And there's a risk of this reactor being taken out, because there are no other units. The Cyclone is on the way. You can't repair the reactor until it's done. But the Cyclone should... Well, the reactor is in trouble. Though it may cost him both Stalkers to get it, which is probably not worth it. I don't think so. Not great, not terrible. Geralt definitely digging too deep and too greedily, but at the same time, delaying any of the production, and he got a full scout. He gets in. There's nothing else to threaten him. He should be alright against any sort of counterattack, and there's not even a medevac. In fact, the Stalker's warped in, bars entry, as... Wait, a single pylon can block this? How sick is that? That's pretty neat. The way it is, you can tell. Robo Bay on the way, but the Blink Stalkers don't even need vision. Oh, this is awkward. Oh, it's a disaster. Just gonna wait for the Blink so we can have the most efficient possible Stalker harass. Surprise! Hello! Stalkers, 3, 4 kills. This is a lot of damage. And goodbye! Blink right on out. Yeah. The rat gameplay now headed towards Geralt, at least at the moment. More Stalkers warped in, and he has the third base on the way, so things are going well. For the Protoss for once. But they've turned before. The thing is here, uThermal, is he pulling the boys? He has 5. Oh yeah, here we go! Everyone! The boys are pulled, but the Stalkers are already in the base. The boys are headed across the map. There's no starport. The worker count is dwindling even before the attack comes across. Charge is only halfway done, so there's a real chance here, though. Recall is on cooldown. A Colossus would be obviously helpful, but there's really just not... Wait. Well, the cooldown comes back up. He gets a few more. A force field, I don't know if intentional, but funneling the SCVs and Marines in. Not sure if that helps or hurts. Another force field blocks the gateway. A single Colossus is required to deal with this. He needs that Colossus. He has a pylon to back the first one up. That is the best hope here. The Robo is being targeted, but it's too late. The Colossus comes out. And right now the tanks were targeting the Robo, now targeting the Colossus, but it got a lot of swipes off. The tanks are taken out. A second Colossus in production, but the damage is done. 18 SCVs, GG! After the, and I quote, illegal barracks cheese, uThermal finally shut down with his most ambitious build so far. Though probably at the timing he needed to be, which is as soon as possible. Commits to the boys pull all in. But, wasn't quite enough. The choice to go Colossus was a bold move, and it does work out for him by about 5 seconds. Another couple tank volleys and the Robo dies at the most heartbreaking timing, and the series is already over. And we probably would have needed an anti-spoiler game. But no, Geralt stays alive. He shuts down the spicy cheese, and we got more of a series on our hands. Game 4 goes to Tourmaline. Everyone building their first buildings on their own side of the map. Just throwing that one out there. Gotta shout out to my blind viewers. Kind of have to. Doors and corners. That's where they get you. If the Protoss were able to figure out what doors were. I think he's been doing this in every game of the series. He knows uThermal. uThermal treating this like content. Geralt treating this like a tournament. So, I mean, results speak for themselves, though. There is, I think, part of uThermal's strength is that he truly doesn't care too much whether he wins or loses. I think he'd like to win, but he's not going to compromise his content for it. Which, for better or worse, and so far it's working out for him. Meanwhile, the pressure of that might actually hurt Geralt. Like, he knows that uThermal is trying to make a YouTube video first. What a nerd. Who would just make a bunch of YouTube videos about StarCraft? Nobody plays that game anymore. Oh, StarCraft 2. Oh, even worse. The 14 Brood War players that actually enjoy it are like, hey! When you say StarCraft and not StarCraft 2 explicitly, you are ignoring a very significant demographic of everyone who watches our toast. And also all the Koreans. Though, there's probably not much overlap there. Anyway. My apologies, Grandpa. Sorry. How's the back pain? One. Another potential Banshee. I'm interested. I like Banshees. Banshees are one of my favorite units. They're so fun to micro. And they feel pretty fair. Okay. Not every Terran unit feels quite that way. But if you're ready for them, they can be shut down, but they're so dangerous if you're not. And when well controlled, they can get a lot done. Twilight Council is scouted by the Suicidal Reaper. Hellion to be sent out next. Scouting Hellion. Already a bunker on the way. Preempting any sort of counterattack, but Stalker and Adept trundling across. There's a shield battery at the natural, though none in the main. Which he runs right by. A dangerous game. And recalls back, but there will be time for a couple shots. Might be able to take out the probes. Lines up one. Slowly. Kind of scraping through. 2 probes dead. Meanwhile, Stalker on the other side. Contested. Widowmine will be repaired. It looks like it got a shot off. Taking out the Adept that led the charge. third Nexus. And so far, holding it together. Another somewhat... This is just super... I don't know what I'm saying. Like, I'm trying to fill in some generic caster commentary. It's 1-1-1. Marine Tank Liberator against a Blink timing. All that remains to be seen is whether uThermal pulls the boys and tries to get a bunch done with the very first tank timing, or if this is just a means to an end. The Widow Mine drop has been boxed out by the Stalkers. Stalkers on the edge of everything, including the crashed mothership. So sick. The Liberator was spotted by the hallucinated Phoenix. More Stalkers warped in. And he didn't know the exact timing or where the medevac was. It was clearly damaged on the way in, but uThermal still lining up a potentially dangerous timing and moving out with the Marine tank as well. Widow Mine drop heads towards the main, and there's no Stalkers in position to deal with it. Dropping out the mines. And so far, offers up the sacrifices, 2 on the altar of destruction, and the Liberator target firing a couple more probes. But a bit mistimed. More of a 1-2-3 than a 3-pronged attack. And the Marines and tanks will be here, but Geralt can concentrate all of his forces. And the Stalkers blink in. The tank is taken down. The Marines are still dangerous as the blink is on cooldown, but uThermal with a pretty mediocrely timed set of attacks that don't quite come together. So Geralt's able to pick them apart. A solid defense. And now uThermal has a grand total of 2 tanks, 1 Raven, and 2 Marines. Which is not very much. Even though there's only 9 Blink Stalkers, does he still have a sentry? No. So no ability to get easy vision. He just blunks forward, gambling, there's nothing behind it. And he's right! The tank just knocked off the field. More barracks on the way. The boys pre-pulled. Auto turret slapped down. Draws out the energy and the SCV pull, but Geralt back at home. 60 probes. He's got 3 bases. Templar Archives is nearly complete. He's got all the fixins here, and he should be able to defend. Or even attack outright. He sees the 3rd command center with the hallucinated Phoenix, which shows uThermal's intent to take this game a little bit later. And now we'll see. Well, Stim! Oh, that's huge. Stim, a reactor on the starport. This has gone from troubling to terrible for the Terran player. That is a huge setback. The reactor on the starport and Stim pack for his Marines and Marauders, obviously key parts of the infrastructure and unit composition, and not having them gives Geralt a lot of breathing room. Or whatever it is Protoss do. I don't... Wait. What do plants do? They're just chilling. I'm no plantologist. Meanwhile... Well, 4 SCVs dead to charge lots. A few more being chopped up. And the cracks are beginning to show. It's starting to fall apart. The Stalker's thinking about blinking on the tank. Think better of it at the last moment. And, wow, the vision coming on like Geralt. He knows the map is dark and full of Terrans. And this time, he's lighting it up however he can. Slapping down spylons all across, spreading out his army. He knows that uThermal's go-to and essentially only strategy in this series has been to divide and conquer. Try to send enough medevacs out to drag too much of the army back and then hit at another angle. But he's not going to let that happen if he can help it. There's a barracks out in front trying to box things out. The charge lots on the SCVs and chop it through one of the tanks. And uThermal doesn't even have Stim done. The economic damage is terrible. 17 SCVs dead, almost every single one of the 3rd. The Widow Mines. He targets down the concussive shell. And so far, uThermal will hold. We gotta ask ourselves that question. Have you liked and subscribed? And at what cost? Another wave of charge lots. And now with a 4th base and a 25-worker lead, Geralt should have the economy to send waves upon waves of charge lots slowly drifting across, while still having enough at home to defend. It's a desperate and difficult situation for the Terran, but not impossible. He still has 3 bases, he has the upgrades, he has production. All the tools are there. He just can afford no mistakes at this point. And even if he doesn't make any, it's still going to be a difficult situation. Another proxy gate in order to bring in more reinforcements. A warp prism for the same reason to the north. The barracks, the Chew Toy barracks actually draws out a dozen charges. The Widow Mines hitting both sides. Warp Prism makes it all the way into the main via the natural. Another round of charge lots to the 3rd. A cinematic of zealots is being warped into the completely undefended main. And it's a disaster. Anti-armor missile will help out. The battle might be won on the field. But the main base is gone. Fighting in the streets. The charge lot's actually chasing down and somewhat awkwardly. Well, it's a disaster. And Geralt strikes back and ties up the series 2-2. uThermal getting shut down. Geralt adapting with each game, finding more and more opportunities. It was a tough and arduous process getting here. But Geralt seems to have uThermal's number at this point, and is getting more and more prepared for these shenanigans with each game. And we'll finish things on Winter Madness. 2 games for uThermal in the top left, 2 games for Geralt following it up. The key point being, well, 1, no Banshees. The Banshees were clearly the defining characteristic of the early game. And even though they didn't get a bunch of damage done, their continued existence and the need to respect them was enough to keep Geralt at bay. uThermal, I think if he does truly want to bring this home, at least has to attempt the Banshees. Or something similar to really... It was a matter of timing rather than strategy, I think, last game. Like, the Widowmine drop came in, it was dealt with. And then the Liberator came in and was dealt with. And then the attack came in. There was a 5-10 second delay between each one, which is not a lot, but it's a lot more than nothing. It's about a blink cooldown, very importantly. Looks like an NG Bay block, or at least the threat of one. Couple more probes coming down, understanding the infuriating potential. Looks like he's not gonna bother. The probe's actually trying to physically block the space where it could be slapped down, and now the SCV, just one probe laser tongue away. Hot on his heels. Just don't turn. The Reaper is only halfway done. The probe will follow the SCV home. And actually getting caught a little on those vision blockers. Takes a split second to re-pick up the trail. And the SCV will get home with an embarrassing story to tell. Unclear whether he really wanted to get... Ooh. He puts a... Geralt doesn't even scout, so I don't know if this has any practical effect. But a supply depot at the front... The Reaper on one of the most awkward patrol paths, but he sees the supply depot at the front. The probe will get close enough to see no command center, which is only true for a moment longer. The barracks is clearly in a awkward hidden position. I don't know what he's trying to convey with that supply depot. It seems like something he wants the Protoss to scout and draw the wrong conclusions from. I'm not sure which conclusions he would draw, though. That is such an odd choice. As to anything to keep him thinking, as opposed to killing stuff on his side of the map. The Reaper, dancing in the trees with the Adept. But, again, in a reprise of the SCV versus Probe. And, well, vengeance. There's no getting out of that one. It's decent damage on one Hellion. There's a starport on the way back at home. The Stalkers will target the Hellion, but a little out of position to chase the rest. There's a shield battery already in the main, which completely shuts down any real potential for damage. The Hellion somehow lived and will get into the mineral line and drain some of the shield battery energy, and there we go. Cloak Banshees are the choice. Again, uThermal gonna try to dictate the pace of the game with the Banshees. We'll see if he's successful. Marines. Reaper actually delays the third base. Robotics facilities on the way. And things shaping up. Still wondering about that depot, but... And the hidden racks. Either way. Second Banshee coming out. Blink will be done. Robo's halfway there, so an observer might be a little bit late to deal with the cloak, but there won't be a second Banshee to punch through the shield batteries until well after. Hallucinated Phoenix. And the Stalker's on the way across. That's timed out with the blink, so he could blink into the main. Raven is on the way. And the Stalker's in position to deal with it. Well, this is another game where things are just going to be kind of dancing around for a while until they explode into action. The Stalkers will blink into the main, and the reactor and the barracks are uniquely vulnerable because of the odd location here. And picking off some of the Marines, but the Banshees headed in. Now, he certainly suspects, if not knows, about the Banshees already. There's going to be an observer. The Stalkers are dangerous. And the Banshees wander forward. Look at... Yeah, and uThermal just types GG. I don't know if that's a red card. You are well within your rights to leave the game at any time. But... So... The Stalkers in the main are gonna kill the barracks. That's rough. I was just wondering if the Stalkers actually... No, the Stalkers are getting cleaned up. In fact, they're leaving the base. Right now, it's 40 to 48 workers. The Banshees will likely be killed. Or at least one of them will be killed. Maybe both. Which is bad. But is it a leave the game right now at dead even supply? What a sour ending to this. On killing those Banshees and the remaining threat of the Blink Stalkers, Geralt is definitely in a strong position. But was he at like a 97% chance to win from there? I don't think so. Remember, he didn't kill the Raven. He didn't kill any siege tanks. He got no SCVs. uThermal still has he still has the tools for an all-out tank push, at the very least. That's too early. I mean, that is a rat GG right there. Rats stay rats, boys. And if you understand that reference. How's the back pain and the cringy remembrance of posts you made in the early 2010s? But with that said, and not dwelt upon, congratulations to Geralt on the abrupt yet well-deserved victory, shutting down uThermal after the emotional damage on top of the actual damage of those first 2 games. The fact he was able to turn it around, hold it together, and bring home a victory is a level of mental fortitude that shows why he deserves to be there in the first place. But thank you for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed as much as I did. And hopefully it made your day just a little bit better. And thank you to Wardi for the 2025 championship. I'm looking forward to more highlights from the playoffs as time goes on. Maybe some more Geralt as well. But if you got the means and motivation, be awesome to check out Patreon or YouTube membership. But I hear liking, subscribing, and hyping is still free, at least for now. And thank you to our meal tier patrons. Big Jiggy, Devin, Dor, Kate, Mario, Soup. Glad you're still enjoying. To everyone, make sure to check out this video that Jimmy picked out for you. And otherwise, thank you for watching. I'll see you next time. Good luck. Have fun. Stay chill.